Today we visit the south side of Black Canyon of the Gunnison with a steep drive down to the river itself, a look at each viewpoint into the canyon, and an attempt at catching the sunset, if the weather holds. We had big plans for Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park today, and on the 15-mile drive from the hotel in Montrose, the rain and clouds looked like they might spoil them. Then again, half the sky was blue and sunny. Which would prevail? By the time we got to the sign at the south side of the canyon, the sun looked like it just might be winning. The South Rim Visitor Center finally explained what exactly we saw yesterday on the far-flung North Rim. Here, a big deal is made about the narrowness of the Black Canyon. As the brochure puts it, some are longer, some are deeper, some are narrower, and a few have walls as steep. But no other canyon in North America combines the depth, narrowness, sheerness, and somber countenance of the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. On the 3D model, the blue dots are spots we saw on the North Rim yesterday. Today we're checking out the red dots on the south side. But first we decided to drive down the legendary East Portal Road. With slopes as steep as 16%, it's a test for cars chugging down in their lower gears. It's a test for drivers as well. You have to pay attention to the tight curves, but the views are criminally distracting. At the bottom, you're right beside the Gunnison River. Actually, technically, this part of the road is no longer in the national park. It's in the adjacent Currituck National Recreation Area. I guess that's why we bought both tokens up in the visitor center. The experience of the canyon from here is worth the drive down. We drove and walked back and forth, checking out the river from various angles. Some of the wildlife even posed for the camera. You can't actually go very far along the river here, so we turned around and pulled over here for more photos. I became mesmerized by the flowing water and tried to get a long exposure shot of it. That's when you leave your camera shutter open for a second or a few seconds to let the water flow and blur into big smooth lumps. But you need a filter to make it darker, or the extra light just blows everything out. I didn't have a filter, so in a fit of mad genius, or ineptness, I used my sunglasses. Not ideal maybe, but not bad considering. This is a 2-second exposure. We started back up East Portal Road to the rim, but I pulled over and took a picture of the road angle, using the level meter in my camera to make sure it was perfectly horizontal. So with the road surface as the hypotenuse, this right triangle is 405 pixels tall and 3,347 pixels wide, which is about 12.1%. Steep, but I'll have to take their word for it that some part of East Portal Road is 16%. Just beyond the visitor center, we found the perfect lunch spot. Blood sugar was high, 238, because I hadn't really gotten much exercise all morning. But lunch was indeed perfect, and despite the wind, I took a better look at the park brochure. This is one of the better brochures I've seen on this trip. It's very informative, with careful but easy to understand comparisons of this canyon with one in Yosemite and the Grand Canyon. Plus the writing is dynamic but concise. The history of the park includes a 1901 expedition by two guys who, though many others had failed before them, first followed the river all the way through the canyon on a rubber mattress. The Black Canyon is called that because its walls are so steep that sunlight doesn't get into some sections more than about half an hour a day. It became a national monument in 1933 and a national park in 1999. My favorite fact from the brochure is that, in a space of 48 miles, the Gunnison River loses more elevation than the Mississippi River does in its 1,500 miles all the way from Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico. That explains the brutal downward erosion on the rock the river has pounded through over the last 2 million years. At times, the brochure is even heartfelt and persuasive. Preserving wilderness shows restraint and humility, recognizing what we don't know about the land, which ultimately feeds, clothes, and shelters all. Bravo to whoever designed and wrote the Black Canyon brochure. The rest of the afternoon was a series of driving to viewpoints and stopping for photos and to learn more. I tried to imagine this land when it was still flat, when this extremely hard rock was just buried far below the rolling meadows before the river began its work. The lighter color bands on the cliffs are volcanic rock, which seeped into the other rock about 1.5 billion years ago. You see this pretty much everywhere in Black Canyon, especially at the Painted Wall, the highest cliff in Colorado at over half a mile high. It looked like the weather was going to hold, so we went back to Montrose to take a break in the hotel room, and then later pick up some food for a dinner picnic in the park. The idea is to catch the sunset over the canyon rim with the Gunnison River visible below. There was a sense of excitement as we entered the park for the third time in 2 days. We drove around looking for just the right sunset spot, ending up, not surprisingly, at a place called Sunset View. Several other people were waiting, including, unfortunately, someone playing music on their phone speaker for all to enjoy. I set up my tripod, tried to frame the sun and the river together, and on the orange hillside, we all watched the magic slowly happen. As a bonus from the NPS gods, A thin crescent moon seemed to hover right over our hotel, so we let it lead us back into the night and out of Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. I felt like we'd seen it all, from every angle we could. It may be one of America's least visited, but it's one of the best. Tomorrow, another high mountain pass takes us through some more alpine scenery as we head further into southwestern Colorado. On the other side, our plans to camp in Mesa Verde National Park are denied, but we still take an engrossing tour of the bizarre cliff dwellings and the surprising human history of the area.